Welcome to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Eric.
I am Lucas.
Eric and Lucas are licensed professional counselors. We have created an online community with a website and an app full of parenting resources and courses. Most importantly, all of this is centered around a private community where you can share your struggles with us and others. If you are interested in joining, please check out our website at empoweringchoices.community or search for our app in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. For a small monthly fee, you receive everything I talked about and you help support the show. Plus, every time someone purchases a membership, we gift a membership on your behalf to someone who otherwise could not afford it. All right, now on with today's show.
We're going to be talking about when things don't go well with your children.
So we were actually watching some material in someone else's parenting training material, to be redundant, and they were giving a scenario of this was a thing that happened with their kid, and this was their takeaway from it. So their scenario was this was a mom and her two kids, and she's just kind of going about her day, and she realizes, looks at a clock, oh no, I am 45 minutes late already to go pick up Fluffy, the dog, at the dog groomer. Oh no. And so she starts panicking. She goes, where are the kids? We have to go now. Kids are in front of their favorite TV show. And so her example of what she did was she, if I recall correctly, I mean, Eric, you watched it with me. She essentially grabbed the kids and stuffed them in the car, I think with very little intervention to them at the time.
There was a little more, and
was there?
And I think we might want to actually, kind of put in there. This was not a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah. This was a toddler and about a 5-year-old, and it was the 5-year-old's favorite show that they just started, and been looking forward to this, throughout the day. And so as mom realizes, oh my gosh, Fluffy is there, and we gotta build the kind of the environment. This is in a major city, so it's not a small town.
Not zipping around.
And they close in 15 minutes, and it's just about rush hour. And so mom's tension is really building, and she goes over and she says, we'll call him, Johnny, we got to go. Johnny, we got to go get Fluffy. And Johnny's response is, no. And she's like, no, you don't understand. We got to go. We have to go get Fluffy. And Johnny's like, Fluffy can stay. Fluffy can stay there. And mom's like, no, Fluffy is not staying there. We have to go.
But I started my favorite TV show.
Exactly. Yeah. It came just...
No, mommy.
Yep. And the more that mommy got emphatic, no, Johnny, we have to go. We have to go.
You can't make me.
And continued to kind of build like that in the scenario, to where finally mom went ahead and grabbed Johnny and Johnny's little brother and drug them out to the car, and put them in the minivan, strapped them into the back. And by now, Johnny is... Mommy, why did you do that? Mommy, my favorite TV! And just completely going up and up and up with the volume and the tears and the screaming.
And for the sake of our audience, I'll try to keep my volume less ear blistering than probably this child was at.
It'll probably help my ears too. I mean, you do it well, but we've got headphones on, and I'd lose my whole sense of hearing in the podcast.
But mommy, the TV show,
right? And just a real meltdown there in the car while she's in rush hour traffic, while she's rushing in rush hour traffic, while she's rushing in rush hour traffic, trying to beat the clock to get to the groomers. I really have no idea what would actually have happened if the groomer had closed. I mean, I'm assuming, they wouldn't like sell your dog on eBay, but I'm not.
Mommy, you took me away from my TV show and now they sold Fluffy.
Right?
Mommy.
And, that's exactly what would happen, later on when, he was looking for Fluffy. Fluffy's gone. And the mom did the best she could do in these circumstances, and finally just had absolutely enough at her wit's end, and pulled the minivan over, stormed out of the front seat, and I'm assuming there was a break in the traffic, went over to the other side, threw open the van door, unstrapped Johnny. Now both kids are just elated, and just pulled Johnny out, and just right there on the side of the road, completely let go of all her anger and frustrations, and just completely melted down herself on her 5-year-old.
Which, and as she described the story, the kid was going like, "Ah!" and just stopped. As she was yelling at him, as kids do, he went into panic mode.
Yep. Into a very panic mode. Mom gets, all of that out, and suddenly realizes, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Well, and she threatened to leave him on the side of the road, if I recall.
There was a threatening of that there too. Yes, there was a component of that.
If you don't pipe the screaming down, I am just going to leave you here on the side of the road. And that's kind of when all the tears just kind of like,
yep.
And he puckered up and panicked.
Yep.
I gotta be good, mommy.
Right, and it all stopped.
The noise did.
And Mom realized, oh wow. Maybe that was not the thing I should have said.
In hindsight.
And even in that moment, as she talked about in the video, that I had a bad moment, and that's, one of the reasons why we bring this story out is, as parents, myself included, you are going to have bad moments.
Well, and do you remember what her takeaway was for her audience as to what she said you should do if you do this thing to your child?
Go ahead.
So she said that she later came to her child. I don't remember if it was at the end of the car ride or wherever it was later. She told her child, she said, I am never going to frighten you or yell at you like that ever again. And I am not going to essentially cause you to have those kinds of bad emotions ever again.
Right.
Which I think is probably an unrealistic promise to make to your child, because she's implying to her 5-year-old, who's going to take this as a concrete, literal promise from the Almighty Mother, that that's never going to happen again. And oh dear heaven, when it does happen again, because she's a human being, she's going to lose it again at some point and make a bad choice.
Right.
I think she laid out a promise she can't keep.
And I think that's a really great point to bring out of that. I mean, because in those moments, when you have those bad moments, you're like, I will never do this again. This will never happen again. I promise you this isn't going to happen again. And we're not talking about, abusive situations. We're talking
No, this scenario was not something you would report to DHS.
Right. We're talking about you made a mistake, because as a parent, you're going to make mistakes. It is going to happen, and one of the big takeaways is look at it, and then how do you clean up that mistake? Because how you clean up that mistake can be way more beneficial to the relationship than it is detrimental to making the mistake.
And I think that she could have realistically promised to not threaten to leave her child on the side of the road again.
I think
that seems reasonable, at least from my perspective. Again, we're kind of tossing around this lady's story and her application and kind of disagreeing with it.
And I think that's a really good point to make too, is there are going to be some things we're going to look at and go, yeah, I was out of control when I said that, and I am going to really work hard on never being out of control to make those statements. That was not a helpful statement to make. And we've all had that, whether we were at jobs, whether we were with friends, whether we were with loved ones, emotions fire off, and, they get out of our hands. And then we've got to go back and reevaluate that. the part that I also didn't think was realistic, as you mentioned, earlier, Lucas, is she said, "I'm never going to yell at you again."
Right.
There is a
Good luck.
place for raising your voice and or yelling, but it also, works within a person's temperament, because if certain temperament is more prone to yelling, you might want to dial that back and work on being able to get more control of that and saving that as an intervention for something that is a situation that is extremely scary, extremely dangerous, or extremely life-threatening in some way. That may be more of an intervention rather than Fluffy's about to be left at the groomer.
Well, and you're saying that yelling is an intervention when volume is necessary to communicate a health and safety hazard. And in our scenario, this lady yelled because she was out of control and mad.
Right.
And that's the difference you're making.
You left out the milk. It got spoiled. It's not exactly the scenario where yelling is going to be, the preferred type of an intervention to use.
Unless the kid's about to chug the week-old milk that currently looks like cottage cheese.
And that is a beautiful example of why this is an art, not a science. Because you're right. Somebody left out the milk and somebody's walking up and they're about to chug it, and you're down the hallway by 20, 30 feet. You're not, unless you're, an extremely good track runner, Usain Bolt, you're not going to make it there by the time they got a mouthful of that. And so you're going to have to use something else.
Like volume.
Much preferred to that one than, other things like throwing things. It's kind of an intervention you want to save in there for those pieces where, you've got to get somebody's attention and you've got to get it quickly.
So if we are going to look at this lady's story and go, I don't know if that was the best idea, we should probably talk about what else she could have done. And I'd be really interested just to see, Josh, you have this scenario in front of you. Fluffy's at the groomers, the child is in front of their favorite TV show. What do you think a person could do in that scenario?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Throw them in the van and run. I think first off, obviously, and maybe she did this. I didn't see this conversation, but, is there any other just, option or way to help resolve the problem? Someone be able to come over and keep an eye on the kids? Is there a neighbor or a friend or someone who could do that? Is there someone else who could pick up Fluffy? Or can I call Fluffy's where Fluffy's at and find out that, no problem, they're going to be there for an extra 30 minutes so I can have a calmer interaction with, hey, I know we were going to watch this, but we're going to record it, So my thought would just be trying to be a little more, let's think this through rather than just there's only one resolution and it is an immediate throw in the van, hit the road, get moving, have a breakdown.
And we also want to give the mom the credit or the understanding. Yes, this was a highly tense situation. You're thinking you might lose your dog.
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying, Josh. I mean, the first thing is, okay, how can we problem solve this in a different way? Because I have a problem, and the problem is my kid's not going to leave that screen. and that's one of the first things you go to is, do I know my kid? How well do I know my kid? That came on, we're done. We're stuck. And so how do we think of some other types of possibilities? I liked what you said is, can I call a neighbor? Can I call a friend? Can I call the groomer? One of my first thoughts was your number 4, which was in today's day and age, where's the record button? Let's record this. Now a 5-year-old may or may not be able to understand that concept at the moment. It just depends on what their interactions with recorded programming in their home and how they've been exposed to that or haven't been exposed to that as to whether or not they're going to buy it. Another thing, that I was thinking of is, okay, how about if I know we're going to interrupt this program. We're going to record it so you can watch it when we get back. What if once we get Fluffy, what if we stop by Dairy Queen? It's on the way home. Let's get an ice cream cone.
Can I get a peanut butter bar? That's my favorite at Dairy Queen.
Totally get a peanut butter bar.
And I can watch the show later.
And you can watch the show later.
So, but I can't watch it now.
You can't watch it now.
Because we have to go rescue Fluffy.
We have to rescue
Fluffy.
But you've added something fun to it.
Yes. Now, and a lot of people say, okay, well, you're bribing them.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please put that tool in your tool belt.
Put that in your tool belt, because you know what, you're going to need it sometime. And if a parent, and I've worked with parents like this, to where they've got a more rigid mindset themselves, as to where, well, you're bribing them, so you're just letting them get away with it. They're just controlling the whole situation, and it's like, well, no, you got to take a step back. If they go for what I'm putting out, they're not controlling the situation.
Right. I would say that's literally like, I am giving them an incentive for them to do what I want,
Right.
Not them. And particularly in this scenario, they're not making any demands that you're acquiescing to.
Exactly.
You're sticking a carrot in front of them to
Right.
try to make them do something that needs to get done.
Because let's just say, if I leave Fluffy there, she does go on eBay. I mean, it's a whole different, or it's to more realistically,
I've never seen her talk on eBay, Eric.
Yeah.
work with me here. Work with me. Well, and more realistically, if I miss the deadline for Fluffy, it may cost me, $100 more
Right.
for boarding.
Yeah.
And so
That's
maybe not
more
eBay,
realistic.
but we're just trying to keep the audience laughing here. We gotta put, that's who we are. This is how we do everything here, guys. And so it's a very viable tool that I may need to have, because if this is a different scenario and I've got to be somewhere, that bribery part is a part of your toolbox. Now let's say it didn't work. We still got to put them in the car. We ran and put them in the car, and they're going off. Little Johnny's going
Took me
off.
away from my
Yep.
TV show,
Yep.
and you're not giving me a peanut butter bar.
Let me introduce you to this very, very technical digital piece of a car, to which will help this not be on your nerves. It's called the radio. Turn up the radio to where you have this other thing. It's called a rear view mirror. You can see the boys, they're strapped in. You've got to go do this. Turn up the radio to where your nerves are not being frayed, because you got no choice, and there's certain types of music. Probably punk rock might not be the one, but they might actually help soothe the child's emotions. Classical music is one of those ones.
Well, it depends on if you're going for drowning out the child or trying to soothe the child. Because if you're just trying to drown them out, punk rock might be your option.
You've never heard of Tchaikovsky?
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, that's some 1812 overture can drown out a whole lot of things, especially when it comes to the cannon blast. However, that may scare them. But there are some other things Tchaikovsky has done, or Beethoven or Bach, that have some really, high inflections of music that can be in there and yet still be helpful.
So you're saying there's options.
There's options. Look at your technology. Look at your pieces. If you didn't turn on the radio and she pulled over to the side of the road and you still had to do this and get out, your kids are safe in that car. We're not talking about 110 degrees, okay? But I'm assuming you leave the air conditioner on. You can step out yourself and just take a little breather there. Put a little space between you and the van.
Do a little regroup.
Yeah, I'm not talking 6 blocks. I'm talking, like 12 feet. I'm talking 6 feet. I'm talking what you feel is a good, safe piece. You're able to lock the car. You're able to just step out there. You'll be able to regroup yourself a little bit and then come back into the scene and the situation.
So of the options that we talked about, the one that we just said was you may have to stuff the kids in the car and go. And that's a valid option.
Yep. You're going to have those.
Josh was brainstorming, can I leave the kids here and get a babysitter or a neighbor or a somebody? And so I can just run.
Great idea. A lot of us have neighbors that we built really good supporting bonds with.
We could tell the child, I'm going to record the show, and or once we get fluffy, we're going to go to Dairy Queen.
Yep.
Right? So that we are trying to entice the child to do the thing that they don't want to do.
And I want to add to that, pick the place they like, not the place they don't.
That would probably be more effective.
And it may sound dumb, but I've seen it. Okay.
Fair.
Maybe not your favorite place, but their favorite. Yeah.
And go with that. Yeah.
Because bribery doesn't work so well when it's, but I don't like to go to Taco Bell, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, let's go get fish right
Yeah.
after we get fluffy. I hate fish.
Fish tacos.
I like fish, though.
No, that's not going to work, Bobby. I'm not going to play this game.
And
Okay,
that's
that's not
exactly the way their behavior would be.
Yeah.
You're not going to
Yeah.
play this game. So you want it to be something that is effective.
So what we are saying is that tough situations are going to happen.
Yep.
This scenario that happened to this mom, again, we were kind of talking negatively about the scenario, but like that's a realistic, like
Yeah.
you're going to have to
Real
do
life.
something.
Yeah.
And then I think kind of our takeaway is like, you have options. And we were just trying to throw some of those out there as, these things are going to happen. These are some things to think about and use them as tools in your tool belt.
Absolutely. Because when you start adding more than one kid, you're going to need a lot of tools.
Well, sure. We didn't even mention, we were mostly talking about Johnny.
Yep.
But then there was Johnny's little brother in this scenario as well. He wasn't as much of a factor, but there's 2 kids to wrangle. They outnumber you in this one.
That's right. And if you have more kids that are closer in age and a little older or spread out, yeah, you got some work there.
You've been listening to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, we would encourage you to visit our website at empoweringchoices.community. For a small monthly fee, we offer a website full of parenting courses and resources. You also have the ability to connect with parents going through the same struggles you are in a safe and private environment. Every time you purchase a membership to our site, we give away a membership to a parent in financial need. Help yourself become a better parent while helping others gain access to important parenting materials by supporting our podcast. Check us out at empoweringchoices.community or in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. We'll see you on our next episode.